in this session, we're going to focus specifically on the strategies and differences between asking open-ended questions and closed-ended questions. So, in short, open questions promote opinions, perspectives, thoughts, feelings, whereas closed-ended questions promote fact-specific information and details. And we actually have a tendency to ask more closed questions when our strategy is, in fact, to get more opinions and feelings and perspectives. And by doing so, we actually miss out on opportunities to get the whole story and the big picture. And this is important because it can contribute enormously to the effectiveness and outcome of any kind of professional meeting, conversation, and dialogue. And knowing which questions to use will help you to coach, interview, give feedback, engage in a customer meeting, and more. So let's have a look, first of all, at how ask fits into the communication process. And this is made up of ask, listen to reflect, and tell. And it's an equilateral triangle because all three have the same importance. It depends what your strategy is. So if you want to gain others' perspectives, solicit specific information or data, you should ask powerful questions. If you want to show interest and acknowledge what the other person is saying, you need to paraphrase what they have said, otherwise known as listen to reflect. And if you want to share your perspective or make a recommendation, make a suggestion, you need to tell. So let's have a look at questions and open questions, first of all, and what they actually start with. And then we'll look at the purpose and the benefits of asking open questions and some examples. So these are open-ended question starter words, and you will see that they are open because they promote open-ended responses, which tend to be longer and more descriptive. So open questions help to show interest and build relationships, especially with questions which ask about what somebody thinks or feels about something or someone. And by nature, they promote exploration and self discovery, which is especially important in coaching scenarios. They have an opportunity to share perspectives, what they think about a person or situation, expand on past, current, and future events. It also gives them an opportunity to prepare for a conversation, a future conversation, speech or presentation, um, or meeting by soundboarding their ideas and strategy, otherwise known as mental rehearsal. In a coaching scenario, asking open questions can help them to make a decision and come up with a solution by themselves. And open questions can help them to describe how they can overcome emotional situations and challenges that they may have. So let's have a look at some examples. So these are some examples using how. And note that we can solicit feelings. How did you feel about that situation? The process of making something happen, what steps they took to accomplish something, how they think another person felt about the same situation, strategies they could adopt to change a behavior, in this case, being more approachable and engaging reactions. And then these are examples of using why. So getting to the reasons and the root cause of problems or reactions. Why did she respond in that way? Why did that happen? The reasons for taking on a specific approach on a situation or problem, and the reasons for making a decision. And then what can also be used in closed questions, which we'll have a look in a few minutes. So let's have a look at what in open questions. So what do you think about is a great way to show interest, build rapport, and get someone's perspectives instead of do you think, which is closed and would get a yes or no answer. And don't you think, for example, which is a leading question to try and get the person to agree with your own opinion. What made you? So, what made you react in that way is an alternative to why, and it is slightly less interrogative and intrusive. What steps get them to think about a process? What are the options, alternatives? Is exploratory. Getting them to consider other perspectives by asking what their peers, customers, stakeholders think about something. And recounting what somebody said helps them to build a story. And what happened as a question is actually a good opener question to get someone to recount a story in their own words and the order in which they choose. And then tell me, describe is often accompanied by what or how. But here you can see that using these promotes storytelling, where they describe what happened in the past, tell me about the time when you met the customer for the first time, but also their preferences. Tell me what you like about your job. And their feelings, describe how you felt when you were asked to take on two jobs. And then give me an example. So, give me an example promotes getting stories about a specific or certain event and circumstance. And this is often used in interviewing, such as give me an example when you had a disagreement with someone. Give me an example of when you managed an integrity issue. Give me an example when you have to have managed multiple priorities. So, those are open questions. Let's have a look at closed questions. So, closed questions promote more specific and shorter answers. And we actually have a tendency, as I said earlier, to ask more closed questions than open questions. So, we may need to consciously look for ways to realize what our strategy is for obtaining either stories, events, or specific information. So the words what, when, where, which, who, how much, how long, and how many all get very short answers, details, facts, and quantity, as well as frequency. And do you, were they, have you, did you, would you, etc., etc. There are many of them. All get responses which are yes or no.
So let's have a look at the strategy behind using closed questions.
Is really to get specific information using which or what. We can get the specifics on the person, who, the place, where, and the time when. And open questions gauge opinions, feelings, and perspectives, where closed questions gauge facts. So, using how much and how many, we can get details on costs, prices, money, quantity, or products, inventory as well. And how often gets us the frequency, and how long gets us the duration. And all the other questions, such as do you, have you, did she, would you, are all used to confirm information, confirm facts, and understanding, and promote a yes or no response. So let's have a look at some examples. So, what and which can be used to understand, for example, the budget, specific advantages of moving to a new role, specific benefits, specific required products, specific office location, specific supplier information, and specific resources and materials needed. So, this is where you're going into the specifics and getting facts. These are very much evidence based answers and questions and answers. Let's have a look at when. So when it's used to extract time, deadlines on making decisions, the last time they had a coaching conversation with a team member, the next time they're planning to visit the customer, report completion, and when they had a checkpoint. So again, these questions are very much factual based, less descriptive. And then where, which is used to understand the place, the location, where they learnt something, the location of the equipment, the best place to eat, and where a customer is located. So again, very specific, very fact based. And then who is used to understand facts about a person or group. The person or group who let them know about late delivery, the person who brought up a subject in the meeting, who was accountable. And we use the who to get an idea of roles and responsibilities. And then how much, how many, how often, how long help you to get facts on quantity, frequency, and duration. So, getting an idea of costs, orders, and new customers, frequency of completing reports, team meetings, and plant visits. And then getting the duration of finishing a report, the training, and gathering data. So, how much would these sensors cost? It's getting a figure, a number. How often? is talking about the duration. How often do you complete the budget report? Is it every week, every month, every year? How long? How long does it take you to finish the budget report? Is it 2 hours? Is it a week? How long? And then finally, these questions like do you, have you, etc. Did you complete the report? Have you read the annual summary? Do you know how to code? Can you bring that presentation to our next meeting? Would you like to go on a bubble assignment? These are used to get a confirmation of information and understanding where the responses tend to be yes or no. And as I said earlier, we have a tendency to ask these type of questions instead of open ones. For example, we might ask, have you been in a conflict situation, instead of tell me about a time when you managed conflict, which would be the strategy to get the bigger story. So, to summarize, what is your strategy? If it's your strategy is to show interest, get somebody to talk and explore, focus on perspectives, get people's emotions, thoughts, ideas, get them to expand on stories like past, current, and future events, thinking about a mental rehearsal for a future presentation, helping them to make a decision or come to a solution, or and describe and overcome emotional situations, challenges, and problems. You may want to focus on open-ended questions. And if your strategy is to solicit facts, specific information, and details, getting information on the person, the place, and the time, getting quantitative data, frequency, and duration, and then confirming facts with yes or no responses, that's when you need to ask the closed questions. So I hope this helps, and thank you for listening.